Oh, ho, 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 ho. Hello. It's me, Julia Child, with another episode of The Art of Podcasting. Fuck me. I'm your host, Julia Child, and I'm here today with the Kevin Vincible, the Kevin Credible, the Kev'd up and ready to go, and Kev, I get a little bit more Parmesan on this spaghetti, sir. The Kevin himself, Kevin Day, is here. What's up, Kevin?
I'm doing great tonight. I'm doing great. How are you tonight, Spencer?
I'm good, but I could have used some spaghetti, or right about now.
Yeah, that sounds good right now, actually.
Yeah, that would be better than what I had. I got Subway. First time in a while. It's a mistake. What do you think about Subway? What first thoughts?
See, the idea of Subway is always better than the reality of Subway. But
you guys have like good. Potbelly, right?
Yeah.
What else do you got out there? Like, because there's chains that are better than Subway.
Yeah,
right.
Jimmy John's and Panera and Jersey Mike's and Blimpie and all of those.
Yeah, Blimpie is something that's like from my childhood, but I don't know if they receded from California or what. But I don't see them anymore. Anyway. Subway, I've been a Subway's defender. I think I don't think Jared did anything wrong. I think he was.
That's the episode title right there.
They screwballed him, yeah. But no, I think that in the past, even when everyone said, everything they make tastes bad, I've been like, whoa, the salami tastes like salami. The cheese kind of tastes like cheese. And I love the taste of yoga mats. So if the bread actually is, made out of yoga mats, more, all the better. That's just, dietary fiber. I don't know, whatever, but I like their sandwiches. I've gotten them consistently. They're nice. They fill you up. They used to be $5. Fill you up for $5. That's a nice thing that you can do. They feel like a blank meal, like a skip meal, like in Uno, there's the skip card. It's like, it feels like that. It's just, you skip your next meal. It's like you eat it, you just don't remember, you immediately have no recollection of eating it. Like 10 minutes later, you're like, I should probably eat something, but it's like, well, I feel like I must have eaten something, but you just have it falls out of your head. Anyway, and so that's valuable for someone like me who would like to make a good decision and not be all like, now I'm munching on a salad or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I actually like salads, but I don't have a lot of good salad options other than a place that charges like $20 for a salad. So I don't want to go there all the time. Anyway, Subway, they got rid of their vinaigrettes in favor of just their vinegar and their olive oil. And it's a bummer. I used to like the vinaigrette, and you would say, I'd like the vinaigrette, please. And they'd grab the vinegar and you'd say, no, the vinaigrette. And then they'd grab for the oil and you'd be like, no, it's the one. It's the only thing that ends with et. But ever since they stopped having the vinaigrette, I have kind of stopped going there, basically, because they used to have the red wine vinaigrette. It was really good, and then they changed it to the Subway vinaigrette, and I was like, I don't like this anywhere near as much, but it's fine, and so now you're just slumming it. I don't even have a problem with oil and vinegar on a sandwich. It's just Subway's I don't think is very good or whatever. In case in point, I got the Subway sandwich today and I didn't forget about it because it fucking tasted like there was rubbing alcohol in the fucking red wine vinegar or something. Like it tasted like maybe it was red wine. Like it hadn't fully converted to like vinegar or something because it had a pretty strong winey alcoholic taste to it. My voice also has a very strong winey taste to it, I think. But it was really bad, and like some of the bites was like, oh yeah, bread and cheese, there you go, and then some of it's like I'm just eating Pine Sol now. It's so weird, and so that was a bummer. And so I made a big mistake trusting Subway, even as I know they've betrayed me multiple times, honestly. But yeah, do you have an order at Subway? Do you ever eat at Subway? Is that like, I mean, even if you're in an airport or something, like in a dire situation, or would you just not ever go for like a sandwich in that case?
I mean, like I'll eat Subway like when I'm on a road trip because that's like the consistently good thing you can get at a gas station. Like, I guess in the Midwest, there's a lot of like rundown gas stations that for some reason have a Subway inside them.
Yeah, yeah.
Those tend to be, fair, but I don't, otherwise really do Subway.
What do you get though if you're doing that, or in general with the sub? What kind of subs are you going for?
Actually, I often go for just the vegetarian sub, because like for many years of my life I was strictly vegetarian, and I still sort of stick to that occasionally. So that's usually what I get for somewhere like at Subway and places like that.
Like the veggie patty, or just the different vegetables?
No, I don't do the patty at Subway. That's really bad. I don't know who likes that.
I mostly like the veggie delight if I'm going vegetarian, but I have liked the patty. It just is not. It's not, it's kind of like the veggie delight where you still have to build your own flavors in anyway, and then it's just, what I like about it is it kind of has warm, kind of more starchy kind of flavors as opposed to just cooling vegetables, which are, pretty typical on a sandwich. So, but yeah, it's definitely the veggie delight's better. And then I would go like hard on feta if I wasn't getting meat, and it would be like, yeah, get it. I wonder if they even still have feta. Anyway, I don't know. Why are we here today? What's happening, Kevin? Why did you bring me here?
Because we have a show to do.
Right. Okay. I was hoping you were going to fire me, but okay. So yeah, that's right. That happens. We should talk about it. You're not going to do the show next week. There's not going to be a show next week on Sunday.
No, we're not doing a live show for any of the Schraub shows. They're all canceled on Sunday, and it's all my fault.
Right. It's because, so everyone knows Schraub Home Video. It exists on like a server that you own it or something, or you're renting it, or your company or something. Someone's opening it. And next week, Kevin has decided to shut it down entirely, the whole server, and like shave it. He wants to shave the server. I don't even know. Do you want to explain what that means? Like, that doesn't even like have a clear meaning to me.
It's like what Olympic swimmers do. They swim your leg to the extra little bit of speed. After a while, the dust forms hair, and the hair actually produces wind drag, and that slows the server down.
And so I would think that sort of stuff is part of the normal maintenance of the server room. Like there aren't people coming by cleaning the dust or anything, or is it just over time the hairs just form?
Over time the hair just forms until it's, you can braid it at some point. And then once it gets to the point you can braid it, it's usually where we say, okay, we got to bring somebody in and get rid of that.
So it's time to admit something. I don't really know what a server is. So what is the Harmontown server? Have you ever seen the Harmontown server physically in person?
Yes, I built it. Yeah. So in this facility kind of by O'Hare Airport, there's this little like locked cabinet inside a locked room, inside a bigger locked room. That has, I think we have 15 servers that were originally used for Harmontown that now also get used for all of Schraub Home Video and Channel 101 and everything else.
So it's 15. Do you have to shave 15 servers? I
do. And each server has a name. They were named after everybody on Harmontown. And then when that ran out, it was community characters. But there's a Spencer server that has a label on it that says Spencer.
Does it have anything specific in it that you're aware of?
Pretty much they're all the same. There's one server that's sort of the leader, and then every other server just replicates what the leader is doing. Yeah,
that makes sense. Who's the leader? Is it Dan?
That was Dan, yes.
Wow. That's so I guess I was imagining like a server rack room, with all the different racks, but it sounds like it's not like that. It's just there's 15 servers, but they're just in a different room, like in a not server rack room.
No, it's in a giant room full of thousands and thousands of websites, but there's a server rack with its own little door in it and everything is specific just for the Harmontown and Channel 101. And
okay, so it is actually okay.
Yeah,
like that. That is interesting, or trite. Take your pick. But again, we're here today. We're not going to be doing the show next week, but we are going to be releasing a podcast episode because maybe this should this be a secret?
We can probably tease this on for a good 20 minutes to just kill some time today.
Yeah. Well, why don't you? Okay. So my fucking computer is reminding me that my email's fucked. My email's fucked, Kevin. I don't know what the deal is, but no, I don't want to talk about my. Yeah, that certainly wouldn't surprise me. Or you lying about it wouldn't surprise me either, because everything this man says is lies. You think there's a fucking server room with its own doors? Are you guys kidding me? He's fooling you. The thing I haven't figured out is why, but that's why we got to continue. I can't stop doing the podcast. We can't end this podcast until I really figure out why you just, where your compulsion to lie just so profusely comes from, Kevin once told me he touched my hand and then his eyes went white. They like rolled back into his head. And then he said, "You're going to get hit by a train." And I was like, I don't like this guy. And then here we are, I haven't been hit by a train yet. Some more lies, I assume. Man, can you imagine getting hit by a train?
It does sound like a terrible way to go.
If you had to get hit by a train, how would you want to do it?
Probably just like walking away from the train with my headphones on so I don't know that it's coming,
Mm-hmm. And it just blasts you standing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a, when someone says getting hit by a train, where do you go?
Oh, my foot's stuck and I'm like trying to pull it out, but my ass is like pointed right at the train. So the train like hits me ass first and like just like probably blasts me in half at least, It
doesn't knock you clear. It just knocks you over. Yeah. Okay.
No, well, it knocks me clear of my foot. It like rips it. My body is ripped out of my stuck foot's, placement. Certainly. But then, the force of the blow, I think, just snaps me in half. And, each half goes on either side of the front of the train, probably. I don't know. I don't know if that's what I want to happen, but that's just the thing that, is always in my, that's what I'm always thinking about nonstop. But, I brought you here because I wanted to interview you. I wanted to ask you some questions. Did we talk about what's happening next week? Why there's an episode?
No. So,
where Abed's going to do the show, Abed's going to cover for us because Kevin can't do the show, but Abed has this whole stage, all these props, and apparently like amazing creative consultants that are more than happy to live produce during the show and just pitch. It's not even a pitch when you just do it, unannounced. It's less of a pitch and more of a action, direct action. But so I think he can probably handle it. It'll be good. You're gonna not want to miss it. He's planning some real special stuff. But yeah, anyway, no, but I do want to interview you. That's what I was saying. If I said it, I guess I got sidetracked. I love getting sidetracked. But what was your childhood like, huh? You have a lot of friends? You have any close friends?
Yeah, I mean, I tended to stick to just one or two close people at a time. But yeah, I had very close friends, and I was definitely the nerdy kid in school, but I was well liked, I think.
Mm-hmm. What about high school? Same stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was still at those years that being a computer nerd was even more socially unacceptable than it is today.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a bit older than me, so it was more pronounced back then than I dealt with.
But it was, I liked high school.
Mm. Good grades?
No, terrible.
Terrible?
Yeah. I just got
good
so
test
bored
taking skills?
I just got bored of school and didn't care.
You just didn't do it?
Yeah, I just didn't do any of it.
What'd you focus your attention
on? All kinds of things. I mean, so I guess in my high school years, I was doing a lot of video game tournaments and things like that.
Games.
I was really good with Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, which was just before I worked at Midway. Mm-hmm. So, and I was kind of like, hey, I want to work there.
Yeah, man. It would be. Did you ever? I guess you probably didn't. But when I was a kid, there was one one of these kid memes, that just goes around, and who knows who invented it. One of the kid memes was, you can make a video game if you draw pictures of it and send it to Nintendo. And if they're like, holy shit, this is really the cat's bananas or whatever, then they'll make it into a game. And who knows how that process goes. But like I would draw like Mega Man kind of alternate kind of game ideas. I had the idea for a Mega Man game where you could pick different kinds of Mega Man. There's like a fat one who had big bullets and stuff, but he couldn't jump as high. I don't know, stuff like that. And they've opened up the Mega Man series since I was a kid to kind of let you play different characters with different capacities like that. So I was on the right track, I think. But it's also a very obvious direction to push into also. But I don't know. It's when you're a kid, you're like, man, I want to, I love this shit so much. I want to be making it, but also when you're younger, you usually don't have really clear line. I mean, maybe by the time you're in high school you do, but I don't know. When I was in high school, I would watch improv, and I had taken an improv class in like middle school as like an elective, but it just never clicked in my mind that, like comedy is a thing that I could be learning how to do. Like I would watch Comedy Central and I was like, wow, there's comedians and I know these guys, and my dad says he actually knows this comedian when he comes up on the show sometimes, but it still just never clicked to me that it's like, oh, you like watching comedy. That could be something you did, so like it was, I don't know, but was it like that for you where you're like, oh man, I want to make these games, or were you not thinking about it like that at the start?
Yeah. I mean, I really felt like back then, I wanted to make games people would love, and I thought I could, make good contributions. And I totally was all about, I want to make games. I want to do something that, I want to see something I made in a store.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So what were your parents like? What did they do? I mean, were they together? Were they divorced? They're still together, right?
Still together today. Yeah. They owned a computer store, which made it very easy for me to be a little computer nerd.
Mm-hmm. So did they like computers then?
No. And
how did they fall into having a computer store?
My dad's brother started it. And decided he wanted to work on something else, so my dad took it over.
Okay. Were they good at their jobs?
Very, very much. And I think they kind of wanted to see me take over running it from them one day.
Sure.
Or they wanted to see me get a degree or something like that. They weren't really thrilled that I kind of like left college to go move to Chicago, where I knew nobody, and work for this game company that they'd never heard of before.
Sure. Yeah. And like, I don't know, certainly people my age, like you move away from that traditional diploma and stuff. But I think that was like a slow shift that, it was something that was a smart thing for certain fields for a while before it just became like, I don't know, college degrees don't matter. Or maybe they do, and I'm just in the only part of America where you could get, I don't know. I don't fucking know. I just know a lot of people lie about their experience or get jobs with no experience, like that's relevant and stuff. And I don't know how that happens, but it certainly seems to. But so what happened to the business?
So I moved to Chicago. My other two brothers moved away. They decided they didn't want to do it anymore. So they ended up just closing it down because none of the three of us wanted to run it for them.
Did they do other stuff too in their lives? I mean, they must have had other jobs at some point, but
yeah, I mean, my dad after that went and worked for a sheriff's department in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska. Doing, anything computer related that came in, from just keeping the computers working in the courthouse to, helping investigators if some computery thing came up in a case and stuff like that. So,
yeah. So toxic jealousy, we touched on this in our last record. I have a lot of it. I'm jealous of everyone. I'm jealous of you in, many ways. But one of the ways I am being jealous of you right now is it does seem very nice to have parents that, at least on some level, understand the kind of shit you're into. The idea that like, I'm into a field that my dad works in, you know, is like to me really cool, which my dad worked in television. And like I watched cartoons and stuff and I liked it, but it never like it, but that was kind of the only, what do you call it, like overlap or whatever. And both my parents, but my dad was more explicit about it, were pretty not happy with literally all of my hobbies. And I would feel worse about it because they were not like that about my brother's hobbies, which in my mind, hobbies are all mostly useless. They all teach you various skills that some of which come into play, and they involve discipline and stuff that's all, you know, valuable. But like, you know, at the end of the day, skateboarding is, you know, exercise. But for instance, like, I don't know, like putting together an old project car or something isn't super valuable in today's world. Like, I don't know, I guess it is, but it's like I don't think it's like, oh man, now that I know how to change my oil or like put on this different kind of hub, like now I can, you know, now this is a life skill that it was good for me to spend time doing. I don't know, it's just like all hobbies just seem like you could pick and choose different good things and bad things about them. They all just seem kind of equal to me, basically, or equally pointless. Like, you know, if you want to make something feel or seem stupid, you know, you can make anything seem stupid because everything is absurd. Like all of reality is absurd. You know, human culture is absurd. It's all just made up. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I was like, my parents would bend over backwards to like throw hundreds of dollars at my brothers and their hobbies, and then I would be like, hey, you also have a third son. They'd be like, well, we don't want to sponsor this worthless, you know, activity that's not going to go anywhere, you know, not going to do anything for you. And it was a huge bummer to, you know, be all like, oh, I guess I decided to like the wrong stuff in terms of, you know, having access to it as a child without a job and, you know, money, you know, so like it was a real bummer.
Do you feel like your family now appreciates what you do for a living and your accomplishments and things like that?
Yeah, but like
you hesitate there.
Yeah, because that's something that I guess might matters to some people, but to me it's like, okay, you know, oh, Spencer's just a little bit different, but that's fine, you know, he'll find his way somehow, but not the way he's, you know, wanting and spending his time and effort, you know, not through D&D or Magic the Gathering, the things he like, not through cartoons and watching cartoons all day. You know, he should be more like his brothers and do dirt biking or just having friends, you know, just having, we'll give you money to be with your friends. But not, you know, not Spencer's stuff. And then, oh man, Spencer joins a podcast with a famous TV writer who's like a famous TV writer. And then Jeff Davis from Whose Line, which is a show that's, you know, people know about in the 90s and 20s and 2010s and stuff, you know, like, oh my God. And then he got to make a TV show, and I'm watching the TV show and I'm seeing Patton Oswalt laughing. Oh my God, he really is talented. It's like, yeah, I was fucking talented the whole time. You could have supported me. Oh, now that society has given me like a big sack of gold with like a dollar sign on it, now you can be like, oh wow, it was you know, he really got that sack of money and now has society's approval. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit. Now you want to say like, oh wow, that's impressive. Yeah. You can't deny that's impressive. That's like the American legal standard of things that are impressive. I was in a movie, you know, like you can't be all like, oh, you know, none of this D&D stuff will amount to everything, you know. I don't know. You could like in a movie that would be the case where it's like, oh, I came back, I won the bowling championship, Dad, and it's like, I don't care what you are until you can get on that horse, you know, like I can imagine like there exists people that might be like that, but certainly like that's not what I was wanting. It's just like it felt so like if you're paying the fuck attention before, you might have gleaned the value that I'm getting from this stuff before, you know, and not discouraged me so heavily and talked about, like, it's just specifically the fact that they said like it won't help me or amount to anything. It shouldn't be anything I aspire to as a career path. And then I'm the only person in my family whose career path has anything to do with any of their interests, you know, and hobbies. And I'm making decent, or I have made, at this point I'm not really making money, but I've made decent money doing that. It's like, I don't know, whatever. I hold a lot of resentment because it's like, yeah, it's like I don't. It would have been nice to have approval before society did. It's like now I'm kind of okay. Like my whole life, I was like, I didn't really feel like much societal approval. So when I went on the podcast and people were like, wow, Spencer's so cool, I was like, yeah, no, I felt like I was cool. Like I felt like there was something missing, I don't know. And so I don't know, whatever. It's just, and also my parents suck in various ways. So I look to hold it against them. Maybe the Spitreon can spite my parents. What if we could get on the Spitreon, we make more money than both of my parents make combined, which I don't even know what their jobs are. I don't know what's going on, but that would be some fucking global level spite. I'll send everyone like an iPad or something. We do that, which I probably won't be able to afford. My parents are not making a ton of money. I don't know what I think my mom's like a nanny for a kid. I don't know what my dad's doing. But anyway, sorry, but that's why I'm jealous of you, because when you have normal parents or parents that are like just taking an interest in your stuff, I don't know. It seems like it would do a lot of good for you. I've seen a lot of people they're just fully doing the thing that they like professionally, and I was like, wow. And then they were supported, and I was like, wow, must be nice. I don't know, whatever. This is so uncharismatic. Anyway, you have any best friends or anything? Like you said, you had one or two people that you would attach to. Like my big best friend was Wyatt, until he betrayed me, and then my best friend was Colin, and that was more like high school and stuff. But do you have anyone like that?
Yeah, I have quite a few people in my life that I'm very close to.
Quite a few people. Wow, must be nice.
I mean, I meant
like in high school and
you
stuff.
As one of those. Like we don't talk often, but I know if I called you at 4 a.m. and said, "Hey, Spencer, I have a problem. I need to talk," I'm pretty sure you'd take that call.
Yeah, but that's just because I'm awesome. Like that, I don't know that has to do with how close we are. But I get what you're saying. I think that like part of it is just my attitude. I think that since I'm a pessimist, I don't think of stuff like that, because I would agree. I think that we are friends. I mean, obviously you don't live here, but but when I'm thinking about like how shitty my life is, I don't think like, oh, and Kevin, I go like, oh, there's no one, I'm not like, I'm thinking of like a void, like I'm imagining a void and not thinking of the people that actually do exist. I used to have to write down lists of people that I was friends with or friendly with, because when I was like spiraling, I'd be like, wait, no, I have a list of people. These are real people. I've talked to them and stuff. I put them on a list. But yeah, anyway.
You seem to kind of be a skeptic about people, like you kind of said you're a pessimist. And I think, I think you are very good at spotting when somebody's not being honest with you. And I think you're very good at spotting, people who are maybe not being genuine. Do you feel that you have a skill in that area?
Not particularly. I actually think I'm relatively gullible. I think I want to believe people, and I just get burned a lot, But yeah, I don't know. I think that I definitely do feel gullible, and I do feel like I have a lot of fear and anxiety and stuff with interacting with people. But a lot of time, it's just anxiety and stuff. But like, I know that I can feel that like my heart desire or whatever is to believe them and not be like, no, this person is trying to manipulate me or something. I don't know. It's a lot of baggage to kind of filter through first.
It is.
But yeah, no, I was talking to my friend recently about how I don't know why this is. When I was young, I was a lot more socialized than I became as I kind of grew up, and as a a kid, not like an adult, but it kind of carried over. But like my parents never had problems with me when I was younger, but at a point they took me to the doctor and were like, we think this kid's autistic. And they were like, well, it's they said that they have to like ask questions about when I was a young child, because even autistic people, they pick up a lot of social cues and learn how to kind of what do they call it, passing or whatever. I don't think it's passing. I can't remember the actual word. But anyway, but so even if they kind of seem normal now, that could just be stuff that they picked up to like cope, as opposed to like actually their autistic traits. So the idea is, over time people learn to hide their autistic traits just to kind of get by on social interaction to some extent, and so you want to go to the childhood, like the early ages, before those kind of defensive kind of develop. And so when they did that, they asked a lot of questions, and I apparently was very normal, and so my parents were like, oh, I guess he's not autistic, and they were kind of bummed out or whatever. But I don't know. So like I don't think I'm autistic, although a lot of times when I read about autistic and Asperger people, a lot of the stuff that they're saying like resonates with me on some level. But anyway, I feel like my interactions with humans are not the kind of formative ones that most people have. And so I feel like a lot of what I've like learned socially was not through personal experience, but rather talking to people and learning about them kind of going through similar experiences, and then talking to them, asking them questions about why they were thinking this or that, and then coming to kind of like an intellectual understanding of what that person went through, and then kind of like putting that in my bank of like social knowledge or whatever, so like as a result, it felt like I never like learned anything, like, or like nothing ever came naturally to me. And so maybe this is like a really normal way of development, and I'm just like making it sound crazy, but it just felt like nothing was natural to me, but everything that I know is kind of more top of mind, because I'm like, okay, I gotta keep, it's almost like I'm always studying for a test or something. It's like, remember this, that, and that. And then when things come up, it triggers those things. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if it's this kind of concept that I learned about. And so I don't know, it's a weird kind of like almost outside observer education on human interaction and stuff. And I don't know what that comes from, but that does just like feel like how I identify. Obviously, I think a lot of people feel like outsiders in various ways, but I feel like this is different than just feeling like an outsider, because it just has to do with like, I don't know, how I relate to social information compared to other people when I seem to talk to them. Anyway, all of this is to say, did you have any high school jobs? No, we got to take a break. We'll be back with more Doughboys. Hey folks, this is Mike Mitchell. I'm here to talk to you today about MeUndies. MeUndies are the freaking underwear that's funderwear. And oh baby, they paid me to say that. That's right folks, MeUndies is back, and we're advertising on That Happens, with the caveat that the Doughboys have to do all the ad reads. So that's why I'm here, baby. Hut dog. Use the promo code GoblinFlakes for 20% off MeUndies today. MeUndies. It's the underwear. Hey, Kevin, what the fuck was that? Did you hear that?
I did.
What the fuck was that?
That was times are tough, Spencer. We gotta make money somehow.
No, it sounded like a scream. I just heard like a screeching. Did the audience hear that? There was like a screeching, like a woman shrieking, like some sort of curses. What the fuck? Oh my God. Did you play the ad?
I did, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, you got to support our sponsors. So if you ever need ethereal screamed curses, I don't even know how to describe what I was just hearing. Anyway, yeah. Okay. So we're back. High school jobs. You take any jobs in high school?
I worked at a tattoo/record shop for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in an arcade. High school, I did not have much in the way of good jobs because
it was a tattoo slasher. Oh, sorry, continue.
It was a very small town and not a lot of opportunities there. So,
right. Was it a flat town?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always forget how flat a lot of America is, because California is so like bumpy and shit.
Yeah. No, Nebraska is, except for the West Coast, just pure flat.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. I didn't know that was possible. Like I was like, I didn't know that there was a thing that land does. I thought it went up and down all the time,
Yeah.
But, California is obviously very tectonic. So, of course, it has a whole lot of elevation and stuff. But when I was a kid, when I was younger, I had a job at the Do It Center. I only have it for about a week because, I don't know. I was like 16. I think it was like the first time I could legally work a job, and I was more of an edgelord. I would go on to be on 4chan and stuff. I wouldn't say like the N-word or anything, but like, 4chan has a lot of bad stuff going on and did back then too. And so, I was a real shithead on some level. And so I was trying to tell jokes, but through this terrible filter of, bad internet humor and just general toxic, hate, for lack of a better word. I would make jokes about Mormons and killing Mormons. And so a guy brought a different guy up to me and was like, "Hey, tell him what you were talking about." And so I told him one of these. It's not even a joke. Like, it's not a joke. The joke is that it's not a serious thing. But if you didn't know me, or you just heard a person say that, you wouldn't necessarily go like, "Oh, this person's lying." I don't know. Whatever. I guess you decide. So I would tell the story that's like, I was taking a shower, and this entire story is fake, by the way, but it was my idea of humor. So I was taking a shower and I hear the doorbell. It doesn't stop. I think they're going to go away. They don't go away. Eventually I stop the shower, put on a towel, try and dry off a little bit, run to the door, and it's fucking Mormons, and they're here to, testify to me. And so, what I do is I grab the baseball bat I keep behind the door. And so I'm chasing them down the street, brandishing the bat. My towel falls off, they're running, they're screaming for help, and I realize I'm not going to catch these guys, so I throw the baseball bat like a javelin, and it pegs one of the guys in the back of the head, and he just goes out, cracks his head on the concrete. He's dead. And yeah, so that's kind of, what happens when Mormons come to my house. So that was more or less kind of what I was saying. And the guy that the other guy had brought was a Mormon. And I didn't know, like, I had no idea that that's why, like, but so it wasn't like entrapment, but he was like, "Look at this fucking crazy guy. Like, look at what he's saying," And so the Mormon guy, I don't know if he told or someone else, or I don't know. I don't blame anyone for this because it's definitely my fault. But so it got up to the manager, and the manager was a Mormon. So they fired me, and yeah, I deserved it and stuff. I'm not complaining, but that was my first job. I don't really talk about it very much because I only worked for about a week, and it's a weird, embarrassing story. But then my next job was at Borders, and I worked there for like 3 years. It fucking kicked ass. A lot of nerds worked at Borders, and it was awesome to work with nerds. I don't know. I mean, these days nerd humor is like a concept that we're familiar with, but I was just like, yeah, the references to Final Fantasy bosses and like Chrono Trigger music titles and stuff. I just love like the humor that would go on in the Borders. It was really nice. But so tattoo parlor and record store, was that it?
Yes, called Skinny's Bop Shop.
So you were a tattoo artist in high school?
No, I just worked the cash register.
All right. Okay. Did you like music back then? What were your musical tastes?
Pretty boring, to be honest with you. Like I went through a Dave Matthews phase for a while. I went through like Counting Crows and things like that. If that gives you kind of like the time frame of when this was, like, early 90s. It
would if I knew anything about music.
Okay. Early 90s, So yeah, I worked there for a while.
That was more like alternative rock, maybe, or kind of
wussy rock. Yeah.
Wussy rock. Okay. Yeah. I didn't really listen to music. I don't know. I wasn't into music when I was a younger kid. I would listen to the music my parents played. So like we would listen to Harry Belafonte and Garth Brooks and Billy Joel, and there's definitely songs that I liked among those, but it was not like I wasn't like, "Oh yeah, this is my jam. I understand why humans like music." And I don't know. I don't think I ever truly really understood like the appeal of music until I really started smoking a lot of pot. A lot of normal things made sense to me, like wearing fashionable clothes when I started smoking pot.
How old were you when you had your first joint?
18. I didn't want to smoke until I was 18. My friends were smoking like for at least a year or 2 years before that around me and stuff, but I was like, I don't want to do it until I'm 18. And I didn't. I guess I snuck a couple drinks when I was like 20, but I didn't really drink before I was 21 either. I certainly like never went to a party and like drank alcohol at a party with people when I was before 21. But, you know, I don't know. But my dad on a whim, maybe not on a whim. I might have asked him for an iPod. I don't know. Everyone was getting iPods because in high school it was like right when the iPod first hit. And so he got me an iPod Photo, which was cool, but it was like, it was a stupid product. Like, you know, no blame to my dad, but it's a stupid product because it was the first like color iPod, and the point of it was it also could store photos, but this was really before like camera phones and stuff, so you would need to either, I mean, I guess back in those days you would have like, you know, nested computer folders for just image files, especially if you're active on the internet and stuff. So I think I actually did put like memes and stuff on the iPod, but like I don't think, like, it also had games, but like I don't think that there was really a real need for it other than like, I don't know, because there was also just hard drives and shit back then too. So it's not like you would, I guess, you know, maybe it's a cheaper hard drive and it's also music, and so it's like, why not, you know, keep your digital camera roll? I don't know.
Back then, I did a lot of photography, and for me, I had one of those for one reason only. Was you could get this thing that plugged into the bottom that had like a memory card slot on it. So when my camera filled up, it would dump all your pictures immediately to the iPod and then empty the cartridge. And then I could put my memory card back in the camera and keep going. That made it, I never used it for music once, I don't think. But
that makes sense for photographers, definitely. Like, but then you need the whole fucking digital camera or whatever, you know?
Yes.
But it definitely seemed like it could be a useful tool. And obviously, you know, just using iPod, you're like, oh, this is the future. Holy shit. But like, I didn't know music, and my dad had an iPod. He gave me an iPod Photo. And so I was like, okay. And there's like two cool girls in my class that I was like on good terms with, and they were both like into different kinds of music and stuff. So I asked both of them like what your favorite music was, and one of them said Guns N' Roses because she was more of like a punk rock kind of girl, and then one of them said Freeze Pop, which is like this weird kind of electro poppy kind of, I don't know how you'd classify it. Maybe it's just electro pop, but it was like a kind of like a electronical, and then it has like a woman vocalist as like the main voice for all the songs and stuff. I don't know. So I was just like, okay. And then I went home and like LimeWired like all of Guns N' Roses songs and then all of like Freeze Pop songs and put them on the iPod because I didn't know what, you know, any music was. And then like for like 2 years, that's basically the only music I listened to. You know, not amazing. I like Guns N' Roses just fine, but like neither of the you know, discographies that I had like were full of like, you know, bangers. It was all kind of crappy. But you know, I would slowly gain a taste for like electronic music, like Tetris remixes, you know, like Tetris theme remixes and stuff. And you know, also 4chan has like anime music and kind of meme music that I would kind of get into. Like Chocolate Rain was like a thing people would remix, and so I would have some of those songs, and I don't know. So it's slowly built out, mostly novelty stuff from there. And then, but yeah, to the extent I actually explore music, it's almost all electronic. Like I went into Infected Mushroom, I did Parliament Funkadelic for a while. I really like funk music, but yeah. So did you ever get into electronic music, or are you still more into guitars? Or
yeah, no, I think growing up in Nebraska just ruined that for me because there was nowhere to, you could not hear anything electronic if you wanted to. You know, it wasn't on the radio, it wasn't in the stores, it wasn't anywhere. And that was a little bit pre-internet. So you kind of like, back then, I think depending on where you grew up in a different bubble of music, you know, because if it wasn't popular, the stores wouldn't stock it, which meant nobody could even listen to it if they wanted to. And, you know,
you wouldn't necessarily even know it existed unless you did beforehand.
Right. You know, and I'd even notice just like from town to town, sometimes, you know, a song that would be huge in one little podunk town in Nebraska would be unheard of in the next one over, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Everything was like that back then. And everyone would just lie about their uncle being at Nintendo or whatever the fuck.
Yes.
Was your uncle? I bet your uncle worked at Nintendo. You fucking.
No, I had no uncle at Nintendo, but I did have people not believing me for the longest time that I work at Midway Games now designing games, and like I worked there for so long before anything I did came out that people were like, yeah, sure. All these games you keep saying you're working on never get released. So
yeah, I like fully most of what you say. I have that reaction to. I gotta imagine that most people you interact with your life have had that reaction at least a couple times to a lot of things you've said.
Yeah,
it's I talk to people. I talk shit all the time. I talk shit all over the place, and I talk to people about the podcast. I talk to people about you, and what I say about you behind your back is that, like, I'm fully of two minds anytime Kevin says anything, which is the first thing is this is just bullshit. Why is he lying to me? Why does he think anyone's going to believe any of this? And then the second is, I mean, why would this is stupid to lie about it? It's obviously he's just saying the truth. And we've known each other for a long time, and for a good portion of that, I was more heavily on the fence of I think this guy's just a crazy compulsive liar. But as time comes through, and you check your realities versus your fakes, and I've only counted like one maybe false thing, but it's not even false. It's just something that you said could happen in the future, and there's all sorts of reasons why that thing would have fallen apart. So it's like it's like that thing didn't happen yet, but that's not to say that you just made up the thing. All sorts of reasons could have contributed to not but that's like one of the only kind of check marks in the box of suspicious every time I've actually got an answer. So I've come to be all like, okay, I have this kind of visceral reaction to why is this guy lying to me, but I always come back to I just that's my baggage. But it's
maybe for a future show you should pick something that I've told you about my past that you don't feel is the truth, and I'm going to come up with some evidence for you.
Well, I mean, we've on Harmontown we've talked about like your whole entrance, like your introduction with Dan, right?
Yeah.
Like there was a big portion of the time where Dan was just carrying on with you that I was like, there's no way, this guy's just a psychopath. He just somehow hacked Dan's email and is now feeding him a story so that he can get in his good graces. And there was a long time where that narrative it was still a coherent narrative for like a long period of time. It wasn't like the stakes were never that high because you weren't ever like trying to pull anything, but like just that I was just like, there's no way that he got his like this is crazy. He just like hacked it and has made up this crazy story, and yeah, but obviously that was true, because again, there's verifiable stuff that you were talking about, where Dan was. This was during Celebgate, right? And Dan's password and stuff was being hacked, so we had to like go and revamp all of Dan's cybersecurity. I think he started using password managers at that point, which I still don't use. I got to use password managers. What password managers you use? Any of them? It's called 1Password.
Yeah,
that's the main one.
Yeah, that's the one I like because it just syncs to all my devices. And
what is that? That's like $20 a month now.
Yeah, I don't use the subscription version, but there's one. I don't think it's that much money though. I think it's cheaper than that. It's like $40 a year or something.
Oh, maybe I'll try it. I've used it before, but it was a bit clunkier before, but it was still good when I was using it. I don't know. I like knowing the password. So the idea that it's going to be this giant, authentication key or whatever is like, it's a hard pill to swallow, but I know the technology works. So it's not like I really am like, oh no, I don't know. What did your music, what do you listen to these days? Do you listen to music?
Not as much as I'd like to. I'm still I've been a big fan from their start of Foo Fighters, though. Whenever they're in the area, I go see them live just because they put on such an insanely good show. And I really think like Dave Grohl is modern Mr. Rogers. He's just the nicest person on the planet. You've heard, you can find somebody saying something bad about pretty much everybody in the music industry, but I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Dave Grohl.
People I know personally, just like fans of music and stuff, have been like, fucking Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters suck. And it's like, it's one thing if it's like, I don't like the music, but Dave Grohl seems like, and I don't know, maybe he gets canceled at some point, who knows? But like, he seems like a really cool, genuinely nice person who's like, who's in a nice place in his life and is not just kind of holding back and is trying to like give back to the world and be involved and not, and not just kind of rest on money or kind of aspire to make more money, but really just kind of doing stuff. I don't know. Who knows? This is more of a 10-year ago impression of Dave Grohl, I suppose, but whatever. You got any 10-year-old impressions of Dave Grohl?
That he's an amazing person. I've met him a couple times. I've seen him before shows. If you've gone to a lot of concerts, generally the band is nowhere to be seen before the show. Mm-hmm. And more times than not, he is out either behind the stadium or in the parking lot, just hanging out with fans before the show. Mm-hmm. And he's not getting paid for that. He doesn't have to do that.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I was gonna come up with whatever. Let's move on. So, did you apply for any colleges, or you're just like, nah?
I briefly went to a community college in the tiny little town I grew up in for this kind of like audio recording and concert sound degree I was going to do. Mm-hmm. But then I blew my hearing very badly and realized I was never going to mix music again, probably. And then got a job offer at Midway Games in Chicago. So I was just like, I'm done here. I don't need to finish this.
Yeah. So you got hearing problems?
Yeah, we were doing part of what we did in school was we set up all the audio gear for concerts at a local kind of place where they'd have bands come by and sell a couple 100-seat kind of shows, and we were setting up the speakers for that. And one of the wedges on the stage, I was kind of like on my knees, reaching behind it, trying to plug a cable in behind it with my ear pressing up against the speaker when the guitar player dropped their guitar, and I popped both my eardrums and they both bled. And at the time they were like, you're probably never going to hear right ever again. So I just dropped out, and then my hearing came back to almost perfect now.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I guess, people can heal from a popped eardrum, huh? Yeah. Unless it's like too crazy. But yeah, shit. I had in school. Did you ever have a student store in school?
No, we didn't. And I don't think any of the schools in Nebraska then did.
Your schools sell soda or anything?
No, we had a vending machine that was only on for like an hour a day. That was the most frustrating thing. But no, we didn't have anything like that.
Would you like wait for someone to come plug it in or something, or was it on a timer?
It was on a little timer, and like every day the timer got like 2 minutes further off, so it was just like you had to like do the math to figure out when it would be on for the day.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. So Midway, and then you invented hotel VCR systems, right?
Yes.
What happened after that?
I just started my own company at that point that's been going ever since, that does consulting for very large websites. Like the example that I give kind of is like, say you had a company that wanted to advertise on the Super Bowl, and you don't want it when 1 million people click on your website all at once to break the website and completely waste that ad buy,
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we do things with companies of like, hey, you want to have us host your website for a day, but on 25,000 servers, okay, we can do that for you. Mm-hmm. Which is a lot cheaper than them trying to do that themselves.
Right. And also it's probably cheaper than having just more baseline bandwidth all the time, right?
Right.
It's surge pricing essentially.
Yep.
That's cool. So when you started the company, it was started as a consultancy kind of firm or whatever?
Actually, it was just started just as a web hosting company that we just got lucky and had a few clients that came almost immediately that wanted to do enormous amounts of bandwidth. So we had to scale up really fast and learn how to be affordable at high bandwidth scale.
Yeah. So this is not a criticism of you, but consultancy is a thing that happens, and sometimes people trying to pivot to be consultants or, worse, maybe life coaches or whatever. But or sometimes people give the advice, like, have you tried consulting or pivoting to consulting and stuff? And it's always in my mind, it's always like, you gotta have such a fucking ego to be all like, what people need is my consultation, and I'm gonna charge them consultation rates for me to consult. Like, it seems like, obviously there's real experts who have like put in a lot of professional years and now they've kind of moved on, but like, it's just, even that, it just seems like, how do like I don't know, like who's gonna be like, yeah, I'm a consultant, the thing that I say is worth money, like, just because my ideas are so good. I don't know. It's something weird about it,
Well, it's, at least in my specific case, usually I'm working with IT departments in a company that have never had to think about their web server needing to be on more than one server, and
right. And they're not very technical too, probably, right?
Right. Or their expertise is more in dealing with, the printer that jams every time someone tries to print some monthly report, and dealing with all these, desktop computers and things like that, where we come in and say, hey, we're not trying to take your job. We're going to come in, we're going to help you, and then we're going to leave, which is the difference to a lot of them. And there's always a lot of friction with companies that do what I do. It's just too many consulting companies have the temptation to come in and go, I'm going to redo your entire business, and you can fire your whole IT staff, and you're going to save so much money and all that. And that's not what we ever did. We just, we're going to come in, we're going to help you with your one problem. We're going to educate you along the way so you don't need us next time. And then we're going to be out of your way.
Right. That seems like almost, like the just kind of macho business culture, kind of like, we're going to come in, throw our dicks around, and we'll change so much that they'll be like, wow, those people really must have had a vision and weren't just doing a bunch of random shit. But,
exactly.
Yeah. So didn't you used to work in a more entertainment context or something at some point?
Not really. Other than the video game side of things.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like who is it? Someone was talking about how that's part of why you're interested in kind of like doing streaming stuff now, is like, it's like, this is kind of something you were interested in before, but you weren't pursuing, or I don't know. I'm just like, this is like a weird sense I have in my head. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of our customers do video streaming and things like that. So this is why I kind of was like, when the idea came up, I don't know, 6-7 years ago of, hey, let's make Harmontown have video. I was like, hey, I can do that. That's what I do, because I kind of like combine my college knowledge of audio recording and all that stuff with the video streaming. And, I mess around with cameras myself all the time and stuff like that. So that was why I was pretty confident I could come in and just like create a TV show out of a podcast.
Yeah. And you really did. Isn't that right? Well, come on, give me what's something? What's something? What's anything, huh?
You sound a little drunk right now. You okay?
I'm fine. I just drank this fucking sandwich. It's a wine sandwich. It's fine. Come on, give me some. It was
all right. Well,
what's something you wish people would ask you about? What's a topic you wish you had? You know how nerds are. What's a topic you wish you got to like gush about?
I mean, not it's like some long-term thing, but the thing telling everybody today, I'm getting married on Friday. Me and Ariel decided we're getting married. We're coming back out to LA, gonna do it at a courthouse in Orange County. And yeah, so that's why we're not filming a show next week.
And it's orange. Yeah. I didn't know if we were supposed to reveal, so I obviously made a series of hilarious jokes and bits.
That's okay.
To cover for the truth, as I often do, because the truth is scary and unchangeable, and jokes are controllable and under my command. But yeah, he's getting married, and it's going to be a beautiful time. And there's no better place to get married than Orange County, the Nazi capital of California. It's really, I guess we should go into our segment. The Nazis are at it again, because in Orange County, oh boy, these Nazis are at it again. and Kevin is looking at a black screen. Kevin's eyes have gone black. I don't know. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're not, watching live, when Kevin has to play these music, he kind of sits back in this kind of weird mannequin-like pose, and his eyes turn black, and his mouth just opens, and like it's like a speaker, the music starts playing out of his mouth. You could see like the lions, the cartoon lions, and like little music notes fire out of his mouth. It's disturbing. But yeah, anyway, the Nazis are at it again. They're in Orange County. Orange County is full of Nazis. No real specifics. Orange County, they got a lot of hobby stores. I don't know. It's a weird thing that I've noticed. Why? I guess there's just a lot of people engaged in hobbies. I don't know. But yeah, that was the news corner with the freaking news. This sound cue actually plays out of Kevin's ass, so that's why it kind of has this more kind of like ethereal, kind of distant sound. It's coming through his lovely leather chair. But yeah. So what other? Do we have any other bits? Pocket rants. I haven't done a pocket rant in a while. You have any rants?
I want to hear a pocket rant.
All right. This one is on luck. I don't know if I've talked about this before. I talked about it on my stream, like when I do Twitch streams and stuff. But, I think luck is kind of real. It's not, I don't think that luck is necessarily a mystical force that exists religiously or, superstitiously. But, to the extent that random events happen, there's ways to try and encourage random events happening. It's certainly not like enough to like win the lottery or anything, but or like winning the lottery. You're never going to win the lottery if you don't play it, which is not an endorsement of winning the lottery. But, if you want to have the luck of winning the lottery, you'll never get that luck without playing it, or I don't know, whatever. I'm finding all these holes in this rant right now. So I'm going to try and move past them instead of highlighting them and try and on the fly improvise some reason why it's not actually a plot hole in my story. But anyway, I think of luck as like in Donnie Darko, there was that kind of weird distortion line that would go out of Donnie Darko's chest or whatever. It was kind of like their future line of them moving through time or something like that. Or like in Family Circus, the Sunday, the newspaper cartoon. There's sometimes these Sunday issues of the kid, like it was just a house, like a picture of their house or a map of their house with like the dotted line of the kid's path walking through, the whole house, and they go in the freaking pond and then they go to the toilet and grab all the toilet paper, whatever. But if you imagine your life as like this line that your physical body is moving through in the world, like, when your car is moving on a map app or whatever, we're a line that exists through time. Yesterday I was in bed, today I was on the road, etc. That line is like a line that intersects with other lines because people have an interaction. Right now we're intersecting. My line moved to this chair and it brought me to this intersection online with you who have also moved in your chair. And so because of actions we've taken, we've arrived in this interaction that has happened because of choices we've made. And so it's not like that's luck because that's intention. But on some level, every interaction we ever have, whether that's, talking to Dan Harmon or, like having someone buy a script or something, or getting a job, or meeting someone who knows a job that you could apply for, or even just the simple concrete act of getting in a car accident. It's all based on that line. If you leave the house at 10:45 and, 3 minutes later in your car, you get sideswiped, you wouldn't have gotten hit by that car if you left the house 3 minutes earlier because his line doesn't intersect with your line at the same time. You're going through the road on your specific time frame and he's going through the road on his specific time frame, and you intersect because you're literally in the same place at the same time. But everything that happens can be seen as this kind of intersection. Again, me with Dan Harmon, a script, and all opportunities are intersections. But they're intersections that are contingent on where lines are going. If you want to meet people at a bar, your line has to go into a bar Otherwise, it's not going to intersect with people at a bar. You're never going to meet people in a bar if you're not in a bar. This is kind of obvious, but like to the extent that we're talking about luck and having lucky occurrences, what you do with your time and how you move about it can encourage or maximize your chance of increasing interactions and intersections with people, or it cannot. For the vast majority of my life, I've just like literally stayed in my room. Even nowadays, I literally stay in my room. Very few interactions and intersections can happen in my room unless I'm interacting online. But that's kind of different. But like all of those things are a result of where I've moved in my world and And I'm not trying to say that like I deserve anything that's happened to me because the way I've moved my line is actually a good way and I'm doing it right and other people just don't know how to do it, because that's insane. But there's a lot of people who get lucky but just not kind of lucky enough to really break through and stuff. But to the extent that you can kind of focus your life to open itself up to opportunities by getting involved in things that could lead to opportunities, you can kind of maximize your luck. I think when a lot of artists and creatives talk about the advice of just keep creating, man, just keep writing, just keep making stuff, I think like the real weight of that advice is kind of more what I'm talking about here. Because if you make a production, you have to find someone who knows how to use lights and hold a camera. You're making those intersections that I'm talking about, and you're increasing the chances that one of those is going to pay off. And again, one of the guys might have a job you can apply for. One of the guys might know a guy that'll read your script, whatever. But so like, I think that, I don't know why the people say that specific advice. Obviously it's good to train, to get experience and learn what you're doing too. But I think that a big part of it is, they just got lucky because while they were doing the stuff over and over, they finally found a lucky break. And again, a lot of times the people are allowed to grind that hard because they come from some amount of privilege and get support from their parents or whatever. I don't know. But like we had the No One Can Know About This guys last week, and we've talked to them about how they feel so lucky that they met me, and they feel really lucky about this connection that they made with me. And we only made that connection because they did the podcast, and they only did the podcast because they were like, we got to make something. Everyone says you got to make something. We're writing these scripts, but we're not like creating anything, and we can't give these scripts. There's no one we know to give these scripts to, so we got to do something, because like, how are we gonna? You gotta make something. So it's like they were kind of feeling what I'm talking about, which is like we can't make our own luck without like putting ourselves out there or whatever. And so again, it's not saying that like, you can master your own luck if you do the right thing, like I'm saying, but it's just that I think that a lot of this kind of creative advice kind of lives in this realm where it's simultaneously about growing your skills and kind of putting you in places and circumstances that might lend to you to getting lucky. Because at the end of the day, all this stuff's about luck. You can be as talented or untalented as you want. I certainly, I'm not an actor, and I was in 2 TV shows, and I really shit the bed, but it had nothing to do with my skill. It was all just random chance and luck, and the fact that I had known Dan, at that point, and I got to know Dan, and I only knew Dan because, I went to the show, and I only went to the show because I missed the show the previous week, because I missed Dan's tweet on Twitter that he was doing the show, because every Harmontown before that one show, he tweeted every night. They're like, oh, tonight's the night. Here's where you can buy tickets. And I didn't see the tweet because he didn't tweet it that one night. And I tweeted at him, hey, man, I was going to go to your show, but you didn't tweet that the show was happening that night. And he tweeted at me, I'm sorry. And then I was like, because of that interaction, I was like, now I'm definitely going to go to this next show. And that was the show that I went that became, the famous show. If I went the week before, I wouldn't have gone the week after, because I can't just go to LA every week and pay money to see a comedy show. I probably wouldn't have gone both times. So I could have gone the week before and then not been there for the D&D night where, my expertise became relevant and stuff. And that's all completely dumb luck and stuff. But anyway, and so it's like, I'm not trying to say like I did it right. I know I'm just privileged and lucky and stuff. But I think that, people don't necessarily like hearing the advice, oh, just keep trying and maybe eventually you'll break through. And I think it's just there's a bit more nuance to it than I made it, so maybe someday you will too, haha, which is, I think, a valid interpretation of that advice a lot of times. But anyway, that's that rant on luck. One of my pocket rants. It's the rant that I keep in my pocket because anytime anyone says something that I can segue into, I love to pull out my pocket rant and just go to town, and people get really impressed, baby. And that's our show. Thanks so much, Kevin, the hostess with the mostest. Kevin really keeps me alive. I don't know what the show would have been without Kevin here. I don't know what to call these shows without guests. I was thinking maybe you call them empty shows because they're like devoid of like the actual substance that, you typically would expect from a podcast. But, I don't know. Not that they're bad or empty or anything. I'm trying to figure that out because, I want to have guests, but at some level we need to gain competence in the empty shows because we're going to have a lot of them as long as the podcast continues. And will the podcast continue? Who knows? Jeff's on tour till fucking July and is never going to fucking ever do a podcast ever again. And he started the podcast he started the tour in October. So Jeff's tour ends in July. And then is he going to go on tour again in October? Are we going to have July and August with Jeff and then he's gone again? Like, I don't know. Like, is this just, we're just going to it's constantly filling for a show that never really existed in the first place and still basically doesn't, but I just, I like talking into a microphone. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, thanks so much, Kevin. We can move on to the next show. As always, let's just drop all the stacks of bits, I'll probably pick them up next time, but Kevin, take us out.
Bye, everybody.
Starburns Audio.